We call the meeting to order.
As required by the Open Public Meetings Act of 1975, adequate notice this meeting was provided on March 3rd, 2025 by providing notice of the express times and Star Ledger and by posting of said notice in the municipal building on the same date. Mayor Barsney?
Here.
Mr. Baylor?
Here.
Mr. Beam?
Here.
Mr. Kenneth?
Here.
Ms. McDermott? Here.
We stand for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Before we do the budget, I guess we're gonna adopt resolution 4125, which is the one about the settlement with the fair share housing on a number of houses. We're agreeing to for round 4. Let's make a motion and we discuss. I'll make a motion, we adopt. Anybody want to second? And now the floor is open for whatever we want to talk about. They want to make any comments, have any questions on it?
Yeah, Stewartsville will now become unaffordable and all of us that are left need to move. Yeah. That many homes is gonna devastate this community.
It just shows how strong the Builders Association is.
Yeah. Well, actually, they were willing to sign off on less for us, but fair share housing wouldn't go along with it. But, you know, the numbers they throw around are crazy, like, and I do remember when it came out. You know, our number really is like almost 700.
Yeah.
720 units they think we should build. And then they lowered it to 360 using the availability of land and other issues and stuff, or criteria, and lowered it to 360. So the judge pretty much came down to the mediation, or if it's that, I don't know if it's a mediation hearing or what it was, but he recommended the 250. Fair share didn't even want to budge from the 360. And they finally dropped to like to 280. We started out with like 184, we went up to 199. And then he basically split the middle and said, that's about where I'm gonna go, and we pretty much, everybody agreed to it at that point, so.
Well, what do they mean by prospective need of 139 units? If that's what they think we need. Why they want, it's like right almost 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, you can see.
fourth from the bottom, whereas. You know, present need is 0. And prospective need of 139 units. Is that kind of what we're building now, the 66 and the 65?
Well, no, because that's the third round from 2015.
Right.
The building.
Right. So what's the 139?
I don't know what that exactly
Yeah.
means.
Well, I don't think that,
Obviously, there's a wrong word there.
yeah, well, there's a couple of
Yeah.
wrong words in here.
Clinton should be
This
replaced.
is for Clinton,
Well,
not
Do we
us.
ever get the clean?
Yeah.
Do we ever get a clean copy?
It's up, it's up, yeah, don't look at.
Yeah,
Yeah,
John
rip
did
that one.
review
We
it.
got it, we got a clean copy, right?
Yeah,
I'm gonna text him now though about that number.
yeah, ask him what,
Or see if you can call him real quick.
I'm just curious.
Well, we
if they-
came down to what, 250, right?
250.
Oh, I shouldn't stop.
Ridiculous.
I got it.
Yeah,
Maybe that 139 is with,
Greenwich is all right, I see it.
maybe that was 250, but I can't.
Doing 120.
Clinton's still bringing down.
You can serve it.
That's
The thing is,
Can I see your copy real?
if,
you want to cut something?
Oh, no.
depending on where we would end up putting this.
Hi, John.
Our developer would come in and say, I'm willing to do it. He's gonna be able to build.
They're at the meeting and they're
1,250
they're
houses.
just
Right,
curious about one line.
That's
in
what I
this
don't think people
resolution.
understand, right, when they see these numbers.
We are not yet. Would
They
you like
think
us
it's,
to-
oh, it's gonna be 250 houses. No, it's 250 times 5.
Okay, will do. Bye. John would like us to enter closed session and call him back.
Okay.
So on this
So
motion,
did you want to make a copy of
you want to
mine?
withdraw your motion?
No,
Or do
we
you have-
can let it
I
sit.
gave you mine.
Okay.
We can let it
that's
sit. Okay, I'll make a motion. We go to executive to discuss the legal issues with the Affordable Housing Council. Everyone second?
That was
I'll second.
Lillian did.
All in favor?
Aye.
I didn't hear you, Lillian.
That's
I'll make a motion to come back in the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're in there just discussing with our legal counsel for affordable housing, this resolution. After discussing with him, we got the motion in a second. Anybody have any further discussion on it? Nope. Roll call,
Mayor Barsney?
yes.
Mr. Baylor?
Yes.
Mr. Beam?
Yes.
Mr. Kenneth?
Yes.
Ms. McDermott?
Yes.
Okay, I guess we're ready to go to, Mr. Bring Me Bad News.
Again, it's his birthday.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Andrew.
Thank you.
I hope you brought us a present.
Yes and no. Okay, so, I handed out probably almost as much paperwork to you all tonight as Lisa did. So I'm gonna start with one of the staple packets that I handed out. You'll see that there's a yellow highlight, 2 yellow highlights on the front page of it.
Okay.
Okay, so there was a little bit of information after the last meeting that we wanted to go over and go through. And what this represents, if you remember from the last meeting, we were about $60,000 over our appropriation cap. And actually about $60,000 over our levy cap at the time. So we had confirmed the amount of the Safe and Secure Community Grant. And that gets charged off directly for police salaries and wages. So what we did with that was the amount that's inside of the budget. We took that out of there because it's still the same amount overall for police S&W. It's just being charged to the grant instead of the budget itself at this point. The other thing that we did, and again, if you want to follow along, I have a whole written out thing of everything that I did. That's the, written up every little change. So it references in here some things that it's some highlighting that I had done on some other things, but you're not going to see the highlights because I printed in black and white and didn't break out another color of highlighter for you. What we had done was we went through a couple of years back. The governing body had gone through the SOAR salaries and other expenses that were allocated based on the total amount of the salaries being paid to the employees that were also working with the SOAR. We revisited that, looked at all of the actual salaries from 2024, put them in, and we actually moved a little bit of money out of the budget and put it into the SOAR budget. And basically, it's just a matter of the way that the calculation was being done. We found that some certain benefits weren't being included in there, which they should have been because they're based off of the salary. So things like your pensions, the Social Security, and what was the third one?
Healthcare. Healthcare or workman's comp?
Workers' comp. That was the other one. So we reallocated those through into there, and that brought us down a little bit more. And then I also made the adjustments. The last bullet point in the top section on my page, you'll see is that I adjusted within the budget, the PERS, the SUI, and the Social Security numbers in the budget. So again, it's not that any total numbers have changed in that, it's just the allocation of it for those changes. So that's where you see now on this, again, we were about 60,000 last time. So if you look at the top there, the appropriations after those changes came as being $28,000, $28,830 over the cap. And the local tax levy cap was about $29,478 over the cap. So then Lisa and I spent, my gosh, about 2.5, 3 hours on the phone, just discussing different things that she was looking at and just suggestions. Again, I'm currently working off of this yellow copy, but the other copy that you have in front of you with the pink highlights on it, where you see the 2 positive numbers that are highlighted in pink, we're in compliance with both of the caps. So again, I haven't made any of those into my actual version of the budget that I'm working with. And detailed on this long sheet, which we can go through and discuss them. The bottom section, all of those bullet points were the suggestions that were made that got to this point. So if you want, I can go through them individually and let you know what those changes were that we discussed.
Yeah, but before you go, I wanna
Yeah.
make sure I wanna explain so that anybody watches this doesn't say. We're doing what happened here 15 years ago, we're stealing money from the sewer account. We've always taken money to offset salaries for work that's done for the sewer authority.
Correct.
So the only change was, we were only taking their salaries. That percentage. The only thing we're adding in now is their fringe benefits as well.
Right.
So we're not really taking any more money from them, we're just taking a more appropriate amount. Because their health, their benefits and those things do come, it's a percentage of the time with them, so. I
Correct.
just wanna make sure I understand that we're not using this to offset, because I don't know, you weren't around, but 15 years ago, they took like $200,000 from that. They never paid it back, and I don't want everybody looking at this going, they're doing it again.
Right.
So all we're taking is our administrative fees for it. Correct?
Yeah, and that's realistically what it is that the cost driver for the items of the PERS, for the SUI and the social security are all based on salaries.
Right,
So what we're saying is that based on the salaries that are being earned in the sewer utility, this is the sewer utility's fair share of those benefits. That's really the only.
we all understand, I just wanna make sure anybody watches it, understands that, oh, they're doing a money grab from the sewer authority again to balance their budget, and that's not it at all.
Yeah, I think it's just correcting the allocation to be as
Now,
accurate.
in
as
that
we can make it.
vein, Lisa and I had talked. Would we be better off? Joe. Submits about $42,000 a year to take care of the parks that comes out of open space. Can we just budget 42,000 from open space? That Joe would draw down on all year out of that account to pay for that, rather than doing bills every third quarter and then writing checks back and forth. So in other words, at the beginning of the year, we'd take 42,000, almost like if we're a private contractor and we'd said, well, we can mow all these fields and do all the lines and everything for you for $42,000 a year.
Yeah.
And two, would that help us budget wise?
Yeah, so you could do that, okay? The way that you would really go about doing that was you would anticipate open space fund balance in as a revenue source into the budget. So it would assist in the tax rate of the local. And of course, it would just be taking that money then from the tax for the open space. So that's how it would get reallocated back in. So as far as appropriations, it wouldn't really change that. But on the tax side, it would, because you would have an additional revenue source of $42,000.
You know what I'm saying, Joe?
Nope.
Yeah, so you don't have to worry about every quarter submitting bills and everything else. We know the last couple of years, it's coming in around 42,000, right?
Yeah.
So, and if something happened where he had to do something outside of that, then we would just bill them for it, like.
Right.
Say if they said they wanted him to run a drainage pipe or something from a field, we would just keep track of that and we'd bill them like we always do.
Right. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm fine with that.
Paul, you okay with that?
Yes, I am.
Yeah. You got a problem with that?
No.
It's still money that they could, using,
We're gonna bill them that anyway, but
Yeah.
it just make it easier for Joe, make it easier for open space every quarter. You don't have to worry about writing a check to us. And,
Right.
and if it helps this way a little bit, will it help us next year too, when it comes time to, for tax levy caps and all that?
For the levy side, it's gonna help you, basically no matter what,
Yeah,
because it's,
so you're saying it's a good idea?
it's,
Not that it's mine, Lisa and I
It's-
talked about
it's a good idea in relation to the local, because essentially think of it this way, right now, that's what I was just looking up here, we have
It could be similar to what we're doing with sewer, correct?
similar,
Similar to what we're basically doing with the sewer, right?
similar but a little bit different.
Yeah.
So like right now, we have $664,000 of balance in open space,
Mhm.
so we're putting in.
664, okay. Yeah, what are you putting in this year, Shannon? How much? 200
I
or?
won't know
It's
until the,
233,000 as of right now.
So we're
for
gonna
the-
be up to, we're gonna be up to 900,000 in that fund.
And if you're spending it out of there, right, or if you're bringing it in as a revenue source for your current budget, essentially, whereas right now we're putting open space money away, which, we can always use that if the need were to arise for some major open space type of a project. But using it in this way, it's using those tax dollars that you're already collecting.
Right.
And you still have to look at it, if we took, let's say, it's about $233,000, $234,000 this year. So if you were to say, we're taking $43,000, then, or $44,000, I guess, you would be basically at about $190,000. That would still be feeding into that balance, so you'd still be putting it away to use for open space type of items, if they came up.
And Joe, the part, that grant for the equipment, how much do you anticipate us putting in out of open space funds? That's not gonna,
You mean to the
Right.
2,000, that there is a reimbursement one, so we gotta
Okay.
upfront probably do a Title 159 for that upfront.
okay,
And then wait for the reimbursement, and there's been some in-kind stuff with the other grants that are labor costs and stuff like that. So that, those projects there, like I still got the remnants of 2024, would be extra billing that we'd have to do. But the biggest part of the next one is the playground equipment, which is a contractor outright. The lights for around the basketball court's only about 10,000, and labor wise, that's the parts and stuff, labor wise is barely $2,000 in that.
okay. And what about the equipment over here?
The replacement equipment, that's what's the nut there, 78,000 some odd dollars to replace those.
So,
two
I mean, you
playground
know,
areas.
it's still, we're gonna have a positive, you know. On that 190, we're not gonna chew up that whole 190.
But we still got our
Well-
bond payments that come out.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
So-
how,
that was what I was just about to touch on. So normally we do take $25,000. We've been doing that for the last couple of years out of the open space as a revenue source. And then we also do the bond payment, which will be $109,000, almost $110,000 this year. So you're still,
so we're probably that money that's coming in for this year is gonna be wiped out between the bond payment, that project, the 40-some thousand.
yeah, I mean, if you were inclined to raise up that 25 by another. Let's make it nice round even numbers, right? And say 45 to make it 70,000. You would be looking at basically 180,000 out of that 233. And the remainder would be going into the fund balance, and then that would put you, just as an estimate, that would put you. So we were 664, and you would be getting back about 55, so you'd be at 720 or so. A balance, and then whatever else you would be taking out of that 720 for the project would be
Okay.
where you would come out.
Shannon, how much interest do we make on that this year on,
So far this year or
just
last
on,
year?
or last year, yeah, I
We
mean, what,
made 150 something.
Something.
I don't know
is
the
that for
number off
everything,
the
just
top
for
of my head.
just for open space?
I don't know the number.
You don't
I don't know. but I
Andrew, you
can-
get that number?
So the total that we had for interest,
On open space only?
that I might not have in front of me.
Yeah, I mean, I could email it to you if
Okay,
you want,
but
yeah.
that interest, is that going into that open space account? Do
Yeah.
you make a transfer?
No,
Okay,
you-
That, yeah, that stays in there.
we're probably only getting 3 or 4%, I would think, probably,
Yeah, probably.
you know,
I think the interest rate was like 4, maybe and a quarter, 4.5.
okay.
Keeps going up.
But that's good. She said it keeps going up. That's good.
Yeah.
We need that.
So probably part of where that will come more into play of maybe making the determination on if you would like to increase that 25,000 to a higher number might be when we start talking about what the tax rate increase is for the year, because that'll affect that. It'll pull that back out as we won't need X amount of revenue depending upon what X becomes for the open space.
So do you wanna go through these bullets, one by one, like you said, or not?
No.
I read it
I think
last
so.
night.
I read it.
I mean, we're talking payments, like 250 from this account, 400 from that
Well, there was
account.
50 out of one.
The only account that Joe loses money every year in his budgeting process.
Okay.
And, Paul and I were talking earlier about it, it's gonna come back to bite us one of these days. Look. I guess we think, well, like, we have to by law. Run the street sweeper, how many times a year now, Joe? The street sweeper, you guys,
We got sweep streets 3 times a year.
Yeah.
We do complete sweep.
do we have to do it so many hours after salting too?
No, we don't mix grit with our salt,
Okay.
but I have to sweep the commercial roads once a month.
Okay, well, my point is a lot of this is required, so we have to have a street sweeper. What if our street sweeper broke down, and we had to go for $500,000, how do we do that? Bonds?
Well, you're gonna have to bond the machine, right?
Well, I mean, we don't have the money, but I mean, how
Right.
can you even get into the budget? Like this process has our hands scuffed so bad. Like, I don't know how we would buy something like that.
Yeah, it would, again, it would have to fall to debt and we would probably have to long-term finance it, even though it's something that we really wouldn't want to, because how long is
Because we'd have to
the-
get
how
the
long is the
payments,
machine
we'd
gonna
have to get
run?
the payments low enough so that it doesn't go over the cap. I mean,
Well, that falls outside of the appropriation cap,
yeah. but
any debt
that-
payments,
That
but-
was under the,
it comes out in tax dollars anyway.
And with that being said, and I know we're all looking at this and everything, there are two key things here. And correct me if I'm wrong, Joe. And one of which is. We need $12,000 for soft costs for Willow Grove, or we're losing that. And that's not here right now. That's not here right now. I don't believe the storm drains are here either.
Nope.
No. And by
22,000.
22, and that is also kind of by law, correct?
Yes, we got till 2028. I submitted the 5-year plan
So-
last year.
So, I mean,
to Do
if-
so many.
right, exactly, which you remember, so if we don't do 22 this year, we're doing 44 next year.
yeah, and to use your favorite, mandate no
Yeah.
payment.
Right.
It's even worse. It's
Yeah.
mandated and they don't even let it outside the cap.
Yeah, yeah.
They don't even give us the ability to pay for it. Like, it gets so bizarre.
And I mean, the only way I'm seeing this, and I know that, we've done it in the past, but it was only for bigger projects and everything. And stuff like that, and so what are we talking, 12, let's just call it 30 grand. Can I move that from the school of probity tax, the
Deferred.
deferred?
Tax.
I mean, it's not much, it's not like I'm hitting it hard. But I mean, these two things, I think they need to be done,
In the past.
we've done it for roads in the past,
So if we don't come up with the 12, we're losing how much, Joe?
70.
70?
Yeah,
70.
70 grand.
70, not to mention that road's still gonna need to be done somewheres down the road.
Right. Can- With an officer retiring and he's gonna be replaced. He's not gonna be replaced. Chief, you have an officer that's retiring May 1st, right?
Yes.
Is he retiring?
When
What?
I saw on Facebook, he worked his last day, so I'm assuming, there was no official announcement that, when is his replacement coming into play here? A couple of months? I mean, how many, can we nickel and dime it Andrew
So-
that way?
I haven't gotten the approval to hire yet. I am, we just got done with interviews. We had the PT test and I do not have a secure spot in the academy right now. I'm hoping that I can get one from a local academy. I believe this summer they have an academy class going, which is 6 months. So the officer's not on the road, but you are paying the trainee salary for those 6 months, so I would say, I don't know,
So, okay, we got a trainee salary, who's gonna replace a sergeant?
for 6 months, and then he'll go to the first.
Right,
step
and
officer.
are you planning on moving somebody up into that sergeant position to, cause I'm looking at a sergeant salary and a trainee salary, but in between that,
The
it's gonna be.
I would figure the difference between a trainee and a senior patrolman, because someone.
Right,
Yeah.
so how many,
So-
can I get 12,000 out of it? That's what I'm looking for.
So. generally, I'm just gonna put some general numbers out here. Sergeant's salary is, I don't know, let's say 110. The trainee's salary is gonna be 64, then it's gonna go, I think, maybe to 68 once they get through the academy. So, you're gonna have about 30,000 to play with there. And if you're gonna promote another officer, that's only 6,000 you're taking out of there, because the only difference between
And then
top step and
what's, boot camp, how much does that cost then? Whatever you call it,
$1,000.
how much?
$1,000 probably.
Alright, so maybe we can get his 12,000 for the streets out of that, Andrew?
So I'm doing a little bit of
You're
side
gonna,
work here. I'm on,
you might
I'm
need
on a
someone-
sign.
Wow, you're playing piano over there.
So.
You might need someone- Since you're gonna be down the guy, you might need someone for overtime.
Overtime too, right.
Wow.
The bottom line, can we scrape 12,000 out of?
I know. what you're saying.
Well, so here's the thing, right? So if we were to put that in, if we were to designate that as an additional capital item. Right? Capital is outside of the appropriation cap.
Okay,
We do have tax levy cap that we can still use. That's why that $1, it could actually be, we could actually put more into there. We have about 77,000 left from the 2023 year that we can use. So if we wanted to do the additional 12,000 of that as an adjustment to the cap, I could do that. It's just gonna affect your tax rate by the 12,000. So a tax point is about 55, 58, 450 ish, right? So we're dealing with, less than a quarter of a tax point. If you want, I can put that in and see where the tax rate comes out, but before I start playing around with my sheets like we often do in the meetings, I just want to make sure, so if everyone was comfortable with the listed out changes that we discussed, correct? Should I be working off of the copy that's currently in compliance?
the pink,
Yeah,
I would say.
Yeah, I would say,
Yeah, I would say, yeah.
okay,
yeah.
just want to make sure before I start moving anything around.
And I'm not looking for just 12, I'm looking for 34.
Right, you're looking for 30. Right.
For 34,000,
Yeah. Because again, I think it's important to stay on top of the storm drain situation.
Yeah, that we can, yeah.
Bill, the 12,000 you're talking about is for Willow Grove soft cost, correct?
Right,
Yes,
That cannot come out of capital, correct? They're soft cost,
oh, yeah,
so it has to be inside the appropriation.
okay. What's the 34? Is that?
well, that's total, that's
Now
with the
including
storm
the 12,
drains, it's
yeah.
22, 23 for storm drains.
But is that soft cost as well?
No, that's hard cost, that's
That's
Okay,
just materials.
just material,
So-
the road department will do, right,
All the work.
right,
so the storm drains then is 34 or 22?
22.
22, okay. Let me put that in first. So taking that into account, now I haven't done anything with the 12 because now that has to go in
Right.
for the soft ones, right? So taking into account just the 22. Right now, we would have a 5.6 cent tax increase. Or 7.23% over last year. Which is a total increase to the average home at $272,000 of $151 annually. Or $12.59 a month. And for every 100,000, it's about $56.
what was, the tax increase last year? We're up now to about 7.5%.
I think we're at 5 or 6.
Paul. If we're not having to touch the mowing for a lease payment for a truck, could we get the 12 there?
If that's what we decide we're doing, if we're getting the truck like we discussed,
Since
not
the
taking
truck's
it
in
from
capital
there.
Now, and we would.
Well, we could at least, at the very least, get the soft costs from Willow Grove,
Yeah, that's what I was just saying,
Right.
that 12.
which I should tell you, your truck is budgeted here, but just not the way we
Yeah,
discussed it.
not the least purchase.
Not the
thing,
least
now, it's
purchase,
the
right.
Capital, yes.
Right,
So last year, it was a 5.3 cent tax increase. Or approximately 7.85. And again, this year is 5.6 cents or 7.23%.
So it's a little less, a fraction less. No, yeah, I see how anybody can, I mean, nobody wants to increase taxes, but we got a lot of mandated stuff that our hands are tied. You know,
2% increase is absurd anymore. I mean, especially with, when you're talking about electric's up 17%.
well, they're saying it's gonna be 25% this summer.
Yeah, fuel's up how much more?
Yeah.
I mean, we went up, what, almost 5 cents just from the, PERS, PFRS, healthcare and the, insurance
No, right,
premium,
yeah.
right?
Yes.
Oh, so for this year, so that number, that's on this sheet that the mayor's.
Yeah, I'm looking at this one, yeah.
Yeah, so I did realize, by the way, my bottom box where I do my calculation, that there's a mistake in there, but the top part is correct. If you just look at that real quick, the reason that the PERS is showing as a negative
Mhm.
is because of what we moved into the sewer.
We'll go through the.
The allocation of the
Oh,
sewer,
okay.
right?
Yeah.
So it's technically, it's really up based,
Yes,
based on last year, but, yeah, and you got a 1.05 increase in the PFRS. 0.29, so the total of all of that uncontrollable, and again. I did leave the PERS in there, but it's 1.3 cent increase alone.
yeah, a penny and a third of it's just,
Right there.
yeah,
Right.
and we didn't even increase anything to buy anything.
No.
We're just trying to stay in compliance with
Right.
the sewers and, not the sewer, but the drains, things and,
Stormwater.
yeah, stormwaters. I mean, it's. I guess that from a taxpayer's perspective, you'd be saying, thank God they got that 2% cap in there, because we'd be up to 10 cents
Right.
if we did what we really should be doing. You know, I mean, we're doing nothing more than we did last year. The increase literally is to keep what we have.
Right. Well,
There-
we'll see a new truck on the road, you'll see lights in the back park here, they'll see a new playground, I mean.
Yeah, the lights are hopefully gonna be a grant, right?
Yeah,
Right.
but I mean, it's still an asset they're gonna see. I
Yeah,
mean, but
yeah.
you know,
I mean,
and they're not running to these meetings to, you know, they're not.
I mean, most people understand that the cost to run a township. It's just that the way they tie our hands and some of these. Speaking of which, the healthcare costs, I know I text Bill about this. Are there any GIFs for healthcare for small municipalities that we can look into?
I can look into it.
Because. School districts do that. My understanding is Greenwich is even in a GIF for healthcare. So, but they're only for Board of Ed when I was looking up. I haven't seen any for municipalities, but. They're already predicting, I forget what the thing I said to you was for next year. Quite
That state plan's a killer.
a significant increase again next year. So, I mean,
The state made an issue with that where they kept everything flat for so long and never
Yeah.
increased. So instead of us getting moderate increases, that for, as you've all noted several times. As much as our hands are tied by what we can increase, and all of that. Leaving that flat for a long time and then rapidly increasing it has not benefited us.
it's even worse than that, like with, I read an article in the state PBA magazine. And it was written by a woman who used to work for pensions. And the complaint is the state doesn't even argue or negotiate prices with Horizon, they just give them whatever they want. Like, no one's really watching the pot. And we're all paying for that. And we have no control over it. I mean, it just,
Well, and you would think they would have a very strong negotiating position.
Yeah.
because of how-
Yeah, that's right.
if they would just,
Sorry, Mr. Bowman.
if they would just do that and not increase our fees, nobody would complain, but you're taking our money.
Yeah.
And just handing it over to them. So,
I will look into that.
yeah, let's see if we can get in, I mean, I know it's too late for this year. Every year we talk about this, and then in November, we talk about it again, and we say it's too late. You gotta start looking there. Okay, go ahead.
I do just, so. Now, this, obviously, we gotta figure out what we're gonna do to get that 12,000 into your back. So we gotta. move around from somewhere to
Well,
somewhere.
no, I think it's there. If we're not leasing the truck,
We're gonna use the school,
we're gonna use the school money
so
for
I'll
the
make
truck.
sure that I don't touch like 13.5.
Sound safe?
I don't think
Sure.
it's done. The lawn mowing thing,
29.7 instead of that.
oh, yeah. Okay,
Did you wanna revisit based on where the increase is now? Whether or not to use any of the open space additional over the 25 as a revenue?
Well, I wasn't even, before I even get to that one, are we then gonna use some of the cap money, the 77, for the storm drains,
For that 22,000?
for that 22?
So, and this is the thing, right now, when I look at the cap bank amounts. So we have 77,417 left, so I would be taking the additional out of that, right? And then 2023 will expire after next year's budget, okay? But for 2024, we don't have any levy cap, and for 2025, we don't have any levy cap. Just to keep that in mind.
No, yes. So my question, again, before we go on here, and it's just trying to understand. This year, I expect some revenue, not a boatload. From the affordable housing, and let's just say 45,000 at the stage, they're gonna be open for 6 months. It's supposed to be 90, we're gonna get 45, for all I know, it's 62 by the way. But whether it's 30 or 45. Where does that go? Is that outside the cap that will build that fund up a little bit more? Or does that become realized?
So direct for COA, that would go into the,
Well, no, it's not for it's our
pilot,
share of
pilot.
the taxes. It's a pilot, and that's what we're getting from it.
miscellaneous revenue,
Miscellaneous revenue.
correct, yeah.
Okay, but not outside the cap kind of thing. It's inside.
Right, and what you could do with that is that once that becomes a regular revenue. You could, the more common thing to do, the easier thing to do. Is to collect your pilot money for the year, let it go directly into your fund balance that year by coming in as miscellaneous revenue. Because anything that you don't anticipate as a revenue goes directly to your fund balance at year end. Okay, and then you would increase the amount of fund balance that you're using building your budget. So if we know that it's gonna be $62,000 consistently, maybe we say, okay, we don't wanna use all of it. But we wanna take X percentage of it and increase the amount of fund balance that we're using year over year into our budget.
And assuming not this year, but maybe the following year. If things ran super smoothly, we have a data center. That's going to. I don't know what the specific number was, but let's just take $1 million for now. I know it's that plus some, because we discussed it in the land use board. So the town's revenue share of that is probably 170,000. That too will be. Put into the regular budget is realized.
If that actually, so that also will change around your appropriation cap because it's gonna give you a cap base adjustment. So that'll come in as well there. Now the state does their math on what they allow for that. We'll also get the new construction based on the assessed valuation of it, multiplied, divided by 100, multiplied by the tax rate. From this year, if it were to come up.
Right.
Probably next year. So. All of those things come into play at that point.
And where does since it's farmland and they gotta go back, I think it's 2 years, Paul, or is it?
Well, I don't know this specifically, but I know there's a 2-year something in there,
Right,
yes.
they have to,
It goes up to the taxable rate from
Right.
farmland to that.
Right.
I think 2 years.
the past 2 years, so, they're gonna,
It's not gonna.
where does that money go? So if we're getting 170 for the year that they are. They get their CO, but where's the 170 would be 340,000. Is that also, did they just write it out a check? I don't know the last time we had something like this, I can't
Yeah.
recall. Where,
Would this be unanticipated revenue?
I understand what you're saying because they're.
it's a
actually-
one-time shot,
Yeah.
that back year, the 2 back years is a one-time shot.
It would be an added tax
Okay,
and it would just come in as an added tax.
And
So it
there's
would-
space in that too.
And then, I mean, there's gonna be a bunch of adjustments that go on, because obviously it's gonna fluctuate your net valuation taxable. It'll change a number of things.
I guess we'll have to wait.
No, yeah, that's a
Keep our
wait and
fingers
see.
crossed that it's sooner than later.
Well, I was just hoping that there's just a little light at the end of the tunnel, at the end of next year. I mean, that's how far out I am. I'm at the end of next year. You know, because we've still gotta do this one more time without that money.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Well,
and
yeah, I mean, and if you think about it, right, the $1 million, if you're talking about. You're at, right now. What is our rate right now? The local. 7, 8. So if we were to take. Is that what you said, that you believe that it would be $1 million assessed?
yes, I mean, it's been discussed in the land use.
No, not
board.
assessed, that's the tax.
The tax rate of what's coming in, the
That would
collectible
be the
money.
tax bill at $1 million.
Yeah, it's gonna be assessed at way more than that.
Oh, well, I mean, one of the things that we add in every year is the certification of new construction. So based on what the assessed value comes in at, you divide that by 100, multiply that by your local tax rate, which currently, and again, of course. we're
Total
not-
tax bill, we're about
completely done.
19%, so on $1 million, we should get about 190, I think.
Right, so essentially, taking whatever the assessed value is, divide that by 100, multiplied by whatever our final tax rate is for 2025. That would come on for 2026 as an addition to both your appropriation cap and your tax levy cap.
Let's get you this one, count my rate.
Yeah.
No, right. Well, I'm so sure the data centers at least going to,
Okay,
not so sure
so
about the other.
we
property.
know where the 12,000 is coming from, and we know where the 22,000 comes from, right?
That number's up a little bit. That was last year's number, 24,497.
24,9, all right, so say 25,000. And where are we getting that from again?
The Greenwich School lawn maintenance. No, that's.
That was the
Sorry.
job, right?
We were putting it in capital, right?
Yeah. And taking it out of the 74 that's there.
Okay.
Oh, you have a cap. Mhm.
Okay, so with that being 25,000.
Yeah.
Obviously, small change. It's still 5.6 cents, 7.30% increase. And that's. $12.71 now a month, or about $153 a year for the average taxpayer. And it approximates $56 per 100,000 of assessed
Yeah,
value.
that didn't really change them. Okay.
No, it's not a big change.
All right, so that's got that all covered. What else? No more sinkholes this year, Joe? Hope diesel comes down a little bit. Hope the rock salt number is stable for next December.
You have a lot of wishes.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, that's where you're at. You're now hoping you don't have expenditures.
Absolutely.
Right, but I suppose.
You know, and again, I mean, we're 4 sinkholes into the year already.
Like
Yeah,
I
I
said,
didn't open the SEC bills.
Right, so, you just gotta hope.
when I see salt running out, I see dollar bills flying out of that.
You're right.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Did you wanna do anything with an additional amount being anticipated from the open space? Right now, we have the 25. and
It
the
doesn't
100.
hurt us to put it there just in case, right?
Well-
Does it change, what's it change?
Once, if you were to put in, again, a tax point being, 58,000.
Right.
450. If you were to put like, let's say that you were, what's the number that you want me to use? Currently, we're at 25,000.
That's fine.
109,
Well, yeah, just, if you just doubled it, I guess, right?
said 50,000.
Yeah. Because then your percentage of increase is still coming off of that number next year. If we actually put it into the budget.
So that would be a 5.2 cent increase for 6.73%. And that brings us to $141 of annual increase for the average house. For $11.72. and approximately $52 per 100,000.
Yeah, I brought it right back to what your original number was, right?
Oh, of course, we added in a $25,000, yeah,
Right,
I
right.
should have been way quicker on the math with that one, I'll
Right,
tell
right.
you.
If. Can we do? With an emergency transfer of money in November from that without moving it right now?
Once you put the open space in there as a revenue, on day one of the budget, it basically transfers.
No, right, but if we don't do that right now, next November, I need $21,000. Can I do it then?
Not as a revenue.
Not as a revenue,
I mean, if you were to have to spend something out of open space, I would just spend it out of open space.
right.
Out of the trust account.
But I'm just assuming we fall short on police overtime or catch basins or something gets worse. You know, if I all of a sudden, if I need $21,000,
We would
is it
have,
better to take it right now? Or is it okay to wait and hope in November?
it's better to take it now. If that were the case, if, police overtime went high or catch base, anything happened. You would basically be forced to declare an emergency if we couldn't make the transfers within the budget.
Right,
And then if you do that, you have to fund it in 2026.
gotcha, alright. So we might as well take the 25 now. It makes the bottom line look just a little better.
I mean, the smart thing about that, right, is that you're taking a one-time revenue source essentially. And spending it on a one-time appropriation expenditure.
Right, not a budget, right,
Right. So if there's things like that year over year, it's determined that you want to do out of there, then you can say 25 is our constant, but.
right.
The difference between that and the one-time item will fund from the open space balance is.
Yes, I guess we should do that then. That's my opinion. Yeah.
William?
Can I ask a question? Is that from the original discussion of possibly making an appropriation from there for like the 40,000 to cover the salaries of working at open space?
No, this
No,
is
that's
an
something-
additional,
Okay,
completely
additional,
different.
Okay,
Yep,
just want to be clear.
yep.
I was getting confused there.
So am I taking a 40 additional and putting it there? Or am I just doing, because right now I have the 25 we originally had, another
Well,
25,
well, no, you gotta take the 40.
so I have to, okay.
I thought there.
Oh,
was
yeah,
like
okay,
50,
yeah,
I
you
was
got,
like,
and then another 25.
We're taking 42 for Joe. Right? You talking about the 42 I mentioned earlier?
30, but yes,
42
42, okay,
for the maintenance of the fields.
Right.
okay. All right, so. That puts us at 92,000 anticipated from open space. So the combination of that and the debt service is $201,716. And right now, our open space tax, I'm projecting at 233,813.
Plus interest. Whatever.
Come on, I'll get that 3.4.
You got me there. So then, all right. Now with that 42, now you're at a 4.4% tax increase. Or 5.78%. For the average home, that's $121 annually, or $10.06 a month. And it's approximately $44 per 100,000 of assessed valuation.
Well, it certainly looks good on black and white, but we're doing it on the back of the open space tax.
I don't want to like do that.
Well, I'm not thrilled to death with that, but, times are tough, calls for alternate decisions. And then we're not hurting it any, we're just not really building it any bigger. But according to Frank Pinto, we weren't gonna need any money for land in the near future. That doesn't really hurt
I
us.
get all that, but my personal feeling is always. The tax was passed for open space.
Yep, I hear you.
It's not passed to a year you have a tough budget thing, we take money from that.
No, I hear
It's
you.
almost like a double tax, you know?
I hear you.
That's why I'm not keen on that.
But I don't think you're gonna get many people arguing that, oh, you know, you're taking the maintenance of these facilities that we have,
Yeah,
you know.
well, I mean, like, yeah, the 42, I'm not worried about taking because.
That's legit.
That's
right.
legit, we're paying, they're cutting the grass, they're
Right,
taking, they're
right.
lining the fields, or, taking care of the bathrooms and stuff. That is legitimate,
Right,
when you start taking. Where normal tax dollars should be paying for it, that's where I,
Do you want me to maybe take the additional 25,000 out for now?
what were you gonna use the
And see.
25,000 for?
Yeah, I was,
X space and storm drains.
Yeah, I mean,
I thought that was coming out of
That to
capital.
me-
I thought you put that in capital.
That,
No.
that come out.
Oh, that came out of cap, oh, that's right, yeah, yes,
It was-
that was just a buffer. In case we ran short someplace.
So do you want me to pull the additional 25,000 out from
Sure.
your open space
Yeah.
revenue? Okay.
Sure,
well,
well,
yeah, well. So that's gonna make our tax rate go
yeah,
back
you
up.
go back
by-
up, right,
But not by much.
not,
You're gonna-
well, yeah, you're going from
You're
44 back to 52.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, I mean, theoretically, if we didn't use the 25, you could give it back next year,
Right,
but. At the same time. I think it's cleaner if we just,
okay,
that's just why,
no, the cleaner doesn't bother me.
I just don't. I just don't like using. Open space money. Cause you told, not that we're around for it, that's pretty old tax here, but. It was to be used for
Open
open
space,
space. And I just feel like. I feel like we're putting. 6 ounces of chips in an 8-ounce bag and saying we didn't raise the price.
I hear you.
You just put more air in.
Yeah, that's what I feel like we're doing with that, like, we're really, so.
So that puts us at a 4.9 cent increase for 6.35% over last year. Average assessed home would go up $133 annually or $11.05 a month. And per 100,000, it's approximately 49,000.
Still now $20 from when we started.
Yeah.
The year.
And the tax rate would be 0.777. And I don't know if you've ever,
That's a good
slot
number.
machines, but
Yeah.
it's okay.
If you hit it, it's a good number.
So you want me just to run through what we've changed? Just so that we're sure that nothing was missed. So we added in the storm drains into capital for the 25,000. We increased the open space anticipated balance by to 67,000, increased it by the 42,000. So the total for those, that and the debt service payment is gonna be about $176,000 this year. So again, compared to that 233, we're still getting back about 57,000 of that going into fund balance plus interest. I feel like we changed more, but that's it.
We don't have anything left to change.
He did 25. He did 24.
And no post-its next year, Lisa, no.
No, none.
No,
You
Just see
gotta-
how
you
no
many I used
Post-its.
today.
You gotta use the backside and the ones you use.
That's right.
I cut them into little strips now.
Those pens have to last all year.
won't. Hmm.
So, Andrew, then,
Oh, well.
my question is too here now,
No.
We have- $6 million in a bond right now that's collecting interest and stuff like that. And part of that bond money was to roll over in a bond that we had reoccurring. That is not part of the open space bond, that's a completely separate bond?
That's separate.
Okay, that's all, so then I thought maybe we were reducing one and not making the payments on it right now.
It is something to just take note of, and one of the things that we did do was we left interest on investment at $150,000 still. And part of the reason for that is because we know we're gonna start spending that money. and we're not gonna be getting the interest on all that
Right.
once that goes, so it's, you know, better off to leave it as it stands for now.
We still getting the lease money for the open space?
Yeah.
Well,
It-
just,
it-
I'm just
it-
thinking
it's a
it's
smaller
not-
number
yeah,
this
it's a
year, but
smaller number,
yes.
But it's just not realized right now, it's not supposed to be dated.
But I would believe that's already built into this. Right, Lisa? Should be, right?
No, do we anticipate those land lease payments, or do they just come in as?
Into the trust, it just comes into the trust.
Yeah.
So basically they authorizing Andrew to come at the next meeting with this as our budget was setting down to pass.
Thanks so much.
What meeting are on?
Well, I think we should do it for the April 19th, right?
Okay,
That's 19th, right?
it's 2 weeks from,
Tomorrow.
yeah.
I never feel
April,
good after
No,
our
17th.
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 I never
Yeah,
feel
ours
good.
is there,
I never
right,
feel
right.
good after our budget meetings, and it bothers me because I just don't feel like we have any control over our own budget. I
it's at 6 p.m. right?
yes. And we're due it first, so you can leave.
Right.
Well, with that being said, Bob, with the resolution that we signed tonight and this, I am certainly glad you as mayor, 20 years from now, nobody remembers the deputy mayor.
They're blaming the.
We're gonna be blaming it on you, buddy, just like we did the mayor from 25 years ago.
And when they read that, like. That's the best possible deal we could have got.
Absolutely,
Like,
right.
they're not gonna look at that.
No.
They're gonna say, he sold us out for
You
$250,000.
gave him a screwing, right?
Hey, at least set out the history somewhere.
Absolutely. You'll be written in the history book.
One of the longest serving, right, how many years now?
For it.
Did he break the record, 9?
I would have to think so, but I don't know that. for a fact.
Yeah.
Because the
In
old
my
committees used to
33
like to
years,
rotate
you're the
them,
longest, you know,
right?
and you've been here a long, longer than me.
Okay,
Alright.
are we done with the budget then? You ready, you know your orders?
I've got my orders. I've got everything set. I will, I'll have it done probably early next week.
You gonna eat your cupcake now?
Okay, that's right.
Once he got home, it's his birthday.
I've heard it.
I'll make a motion, we open public comment,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Anyone wishing to make a comment, welcome to come up. Seeing none, I make a motion, we close public comment,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
I'm tempted to go into executive one more time to discuss, legal issues with the municipal complex, just to give everybody an update
I
on
was
it.
gonna ask about that.
So,
You're making a motion?
you guys, yeah, I'll make a motion, we go into executive for just a few minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'll make a motion, we come back in public session. All in favor?
Aye.
We're in there for what, like 5 minutes to discuss some legal issues with the municipal building contracts. Anybody have anything else? Looking for a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
See you the 17th.
On to the next meeting.
No longer.
Good night,